Hello, all. This is NY, and you're listening or watching to the Bible reading series. It came to my attention pretty quickly that my mic was not working on my Chapter 40 recording, so here I am going to try to do it again. But a day after, so if I miss some things, I apologize. But such is life. If you have not watched the first episode, please do so for at least the disclaimer. But moving on to the Lord's Prayer to kick this off right. Matthew 6:9 through 13, King James. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth, as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. Once again, this is Genesis 40, King James Version. Header here is Yosef interprets a dream. And it came to pass after these things, that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against two of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, and the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them. And they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream, in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. The butler and the baker of the king of Egypt were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officer that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me then, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said unto him, This is the interpretation of it. The 3 branches are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thine head, and restore thee unto thy place. And thou shalt deliver Pharaoh's cup into his hand after the former manner, when thou wast his butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and shew kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also have I done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was of all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation thereof. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Yet within 3 days shall Pharaoh lift up thy head from off thee, and shall hang thee on a tree, and the birds shall eat thy flesh from off thee. And it came to pass the 3rd day, which Pharaoh's birthday, that he made feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forgot him. That ends the reading portion. Okay, so this is chapter 40. Had to reset some things because I was on 41 when I realized it. So, short overview. Because of the accusations on Joseph, he is thrown into a pit, technically a prison, by this chief of the butlers. And if you watch the previous chapter, we know that this is a multifaceted job. So chief of the butlers, or not chief of butlers, excuse me, captain of the guard, not this butler, sorry. Captain of the guard is a multifaceted job. However, and this is why I really misspoke there. The butler and the baker are not. They are very specific jobs. Whereas the captain of the guard is not just the captain of the guard, but he's also the captain of the slaughtering, and he's also, in my understanding, a cook. So he is put in this ward of the captain of the guard, And while he's there, he works honorably and is shown mercy, so therefore he is put head over those within inside of the prison. At this, two individuals, the butler and the baker, both have a dream. They go to Joseph for interpretation, and Joseph gives God credence, or he basically says that interpretation is of the Lord, since the dreams are of the Lord's work in this regard, and so he interprets them for them. One, the butler will, or the cupbearer is another phrase for it, but he in 3 days will be returned to his duty, and he will continue his work. However, the baker has a dream, and Joseph gives him some bad news. And then 3 days later, Pharaoh's birthday comes along, and they have a feast. And during the feast, Pharaoh decides to bring his servants back up. But before doing this, Joseph makes a request. He pleads with the butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. So this is the request. However, at the very end, we see what happens to the baker is true, and the butler unfortunately forgets Joseph. So that's the quick overview. Go to the commentary here. Now it came after these events, because the cursed woman, Potiphar's wife, had accustomed the people to talk badly about the righteous man Joseph. Therefore the Holy One, blessed be he, brought to them, the Egyptians, the sin of these men, so that they would turn their attention to them, the two chamberlains, and not to him, Joseph. Excuse me. Also, so that relief would come to the righteous man through them. I'm going to grab a drink here. Had to make some instant coffee instead of brewed coffee. Quite the taste. Anyways, one of the things that I do want to point out here is that, very briefly, in the King James, it does not use the word sinned. It's offended. Let me see if I can... In the Septuagint here, it says trespassed, which, if you're familiar with what sin means, it's not far off from what that is. Like, I mean, that's what sin technically means. There's like 5 to 6 forms of sin. One of them trespassing. One of them is offending. One of them is missing the mark. So it's multifaceted, but it's an affront to the person. So offending and transgressing are appropriate words. However, when we use those different words in our time frame, we've come to this place where we don't use this word sinned against each other very often. We almost, at least for myself, maybe I'm speaking for myself strictly, but we only reference sinning against God instead of sinning against each other. And I think that is I do like the fact that they use this word here. It's as well. I mean, it's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with this per se. It's just, I think sometimes, because at least in my reading, usually the King James does not refer sin to between us, but only to God. And that is not entirely correct. As I'm just trying to point that out. Because even if we looked at the Lord's Prayer here, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Now that it is the debtors, however, this can also be interpreted as sins. That is, forgive us of our sins as we forgive others of their sins against us. So I'm just trying to point that out because I think sometimes we forget that is something we can do to each other. And that is a concern. Anyways, moving forward, and the chief of the slaughterers appointed Joseph to be with him, and he served them, and they were a year in prison. So here it uses the vernacular of chief of the slaughterers instead of the guard, captain of the guard. Yeah, just referring to 12 months as a time period. Now both of them dreamed a dream, each one his dream on the same night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were confined in the prison. Yeah, this is very difficult wording in my opinion, and I don't particularly like it because it leaves a lot of question in my mind, like, so they do have their interpretations, but they don't give it to each other, and there's no man that could be found that had them. And why would they ask? Like, there's a lot of questions that that come to my mind when I think of this. But it says, and both of them dreamed a dream. This is its simple meaning, but its midrashic meaning is that each dreamed both dreams, meaning that each dreamed his own dream and the interpretation of his companion's dream. That is the meaning of what is stated. Now the chief baker saw that he had interpreted well. Maybe this interpreted well part, I say maybe only because it's like, well, you just heard somebody go, yeah, you're just going to be reinstated. He's like, ooh, is that what mine's going to say? Tell me mine. And then, it doesn't turn out so well. Each man according to the interpretation of his dream. Each one dreamed a dream similar to the interpretation destined to befall them. So here it says similar to the interpretation. So maybe they had some type of understanding, and that's how he came to this conclusion. That is very possible. But this is a tough one, in my opinion, to really parse out. Maybe to others, it's like, oh no, this is super simple. But for me, it has some ambiguity that I'm not sure I like. But anyways, not saying that I'm like better at words. I just this sentence to me. Now both of them dreamed a dream. Okay, so they both dreamed a dream. Each one his dream. On the same night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream. It just, yeah, I don't know. I'll just move on instead of belaboring that one, because I think we get it. I think I get it, but I'm not so certain on it. But and Joseph came to them in the morning and saw them, and behold, they were troubled. Just sad and upset. I will be the fury of the Lord. So here, when I did the previous recording of this, I did kind of go into this a good bit. I think it is important for us to be involved with other people to a point where we can know when they're troubled. I think that's an extremely important. He identified this, and therefore he interacted with them instead of just leaving them to their own devices. So now moving down to verse 10, so skipping a little bit here. And on the vine are 3 tendrils, and it seemed to be blossoming, and its buds came out. Then its clusters ripened into grapes. Tendrils just means long branches. And it seemed to be blossoming. This goes into just how this phrase is the blossoming of a flower. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I placed the cup on Pharaoh's palm and squeezed. There are many instances of this word in the long language of the Midrashic. Yeah, so this one, if I remember correctly, it does not, it says, and that's it. So in the interpretation, it's making note that that's not what it means, because if I read it, I took the grapes and that's it, them into Pharaoh's cup. It doesn't make any sense. And Joseph said to him, this is its meaning. The 3 tendrils are 3 days. For you, they symbolize 3 days, and there are many Midrashic interpretations. Yes, there are. I'm not even going to try to get into those. In another 3 days, Pharaoh will number you with other officers, and he will restore you to your position, and you will place Pharaoh's cup into his hand according to your previous custom when you were his cupbearer. Pharaoh will number you. So this phrase, I do remember looking this one up. Pharaoh will lift your head. So both the dreams are in reference to the head of the individual, meaning personhood, and one will be lifted up and honor, the other one not so much. In fact, later on it says, "Cursed is a man hung on a tree." So, it's not a very good thing. This is what it gets at. But for him, it's meaning that he's going to be accounted within the servants again. He's going to raise him up out of this pit. But remember remember me when things go well with you. Please do me a favor and mention me to Pharaoh, and you will get me out of this house. But remember me, but keep me in mind, since it will go well with you as I have interpreted. And please do me a favor. This is just please is only an expression of pleading. So he's pleading with him. He's like, hey, when you get up there, please remember me. I don't want to be down here. One of the interpretations is that because he puts his faith in another man, that the 2 years are his punishment. So now the chief baker saw that he had interpreted well, so he said to Joseph, me too, in my dream, behold, there were 3 wicker baskets on my head. So it says in here, wicker, both the Septuagint and the Masoretic say just baskets. This here, it says basket, a gold basket, but it means peeled willows made with many holes. This one says hole. In our country, France, there are many such baskets, and it is the custom of vendors hollow wafers. All of this just basically to say this is a wicker basket. So then moving on, now it came about on the 3rd day, it was his birthday. So here it's just describing the fact that it is as such. And then here he counted. So he counted them, the rest of his servants, for he was counting the servants who would serve him in his feast, and he remembered them, these among them. So it came about. But the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, and he forgot him. So it skipped past the chief baker, but we know what happened to him. And then finally at the end, but the chief cupbearer did not remember him on that day. And it may be the next chapter is in quick succession. I'm unsure, but the point is that he did forget him. And he forgot him afterwards because Joseph relied on him to remember him. He was compelled to be confined for 2 years, as is said. Praiseworthy is the man who made the Lord his trust and did not turn to the haughty. They reference that as the Egyptians. He did not turn to the Egyptians, who were called haughty. So, here we see this moment of putting trust in other people. I spent a good bit of time when I did the first recording of this, but I'm going to try to be as succinct as possibly can with this. I think it's very important that we put our trust in other people, in a sense. Like we're not meant to not trust each other. Like that's like against the whole thing, right? The whole concept behind a lot of this stuff. But they read this as being that he was punished for it. A little bit of a disagreement on my end with that. So anyways, hopefully that was good. It was a little bit shorter than I think the first time I recorded it. I belabored a couple points, but thank you so much for listening to the very end, and I hope to see you next time.